Hey Daily Dosers, my name is Tracie. I'm one of the campus pastors here at the Carlsbad campus. So glad to be joining you today. We're going to continue on with the armor of God, and we are in Ephesians 6. Let me read verse 16 to you and we'll get started. In addition to all of this, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. And in some other of the translations, it says, above all else, in all circumstances, take up that shield of faith. And I know Paul did that on purpose. He gave this analogy of the armor of God and using the shield of faith because he knew the people at that time would totally get it. But it is still so applicable to us today. And in biblical times when they were in battle, they had two specific strategies that were on the offensive that I believe we can take and really apply today. The first one is they soaked their shield. The shield was about 4 feet tall, 2.5 feet wide, and made of really thick wood or layers of wood. And so they would soak it and saturate it because a tactic of the enemy was to put these flaming arrows towards the enemy lines, and they wanted to make sure when the arrows hit the shield that it would be extinguished immediately. And so we can do the same thing. We heard just recently in Ephesians 5:26, the word was equated to washing from the water, which was through the word of God. So one of the ways that we can saturate our heart and our mind is just by the word, by knowing it, by hearing it. You're on the Daily Dose, such a great way to get the word in us every single day. I hope you're communing somewhere on the weekends or midweek where you're actually getting fed the word of God. You're doing some of your own type of study or word looking into and searching. And so we do that in a variety of ways, but we've got to know the word so that when the enemy sends us those lies or a temptation or doubt, anxiety, depression, you name it, he's going to use every strategy he can. If we have the word of God just flowing in us and we know it, we can combat that immediately and extinguish that lie to our heart and to our mind. And so really soaking our lives in the word of God. The word says that it is active and alive, sharper than any two-edged sword. So it does the job. The enemy brings us any kind of thought and we can combat it and be like, that is not what the word of God says to me. And so that's one strategy we can use of having the shield of faith, the word of God being soaked in and extinguishing those arrows. The second strategy that they used, it was called testudo, which is Latin for tortoise. And so the shield was actually had an arc to it. And they would link those shields together all the way around their flanks and the battalion, let's say, and they would put them all the way around. They would link them together, and then they would put them overhead, and they would cover them from the top as well. And then they would move forward as one complete unit to advance in the enemy lines and then be fully protected like the shell of a tortoise. And so we do the same thing. We talk so much about we're not meant to do life alone. We're meant to do it in community. And so here at North Coast, we call them life groups. You may call them small groups. And even in the word in Hebrews 10:25, it says, let's spur one another on and don't give up meeting together so that you can encourage one another and you can do this life together. Because what we know is if the enemy is throwing those arrows at me and I'm with my community and I'm linked arm in arm with those shields, then somebody else can spur me on to be like, that's not what God says about you. That's not true. That's a lie of the enemy. It's one of those arrows. And so we fully believe and we encourage you, and Paul's encouraged you in Ephesians, part of taking up that shield of faith is to link your shield and your armor with someone else and to really do life together. So in order to build up our faith and to hold up that shield, I just want to encourage you, soak your life in the Word of God and get in community with like-minded people who are following the Word and living out the Word and encouraging this authentic lifestyle. And I know our lives will be better. We'll be able to finish out that calling that God is calling us to. Have a great day.